This is East Maui, where forests and water are so closely linked that water seems to run, flow, and move just about everywhere.
We're in Hanavi, above the Ko'olau Ditch, as part of the East Maui irrigation system in East Maui. East Maui is part of windward Haleakala, and the trade winds bring a lot of rainfall to Haleakala, and this rainfall contributes to groundwater recharge and surface flow. Protecting the watershed, specifically the forests within the watershed, is an important component to the water cycle. The forests act as the sponge that captures all that rainfall that the trade winds bring. And that sponge releases it both in terms of groundwater recharge and surface flow. Some of this surface water gets diverted to the central plains for drinking water supply and agriculture.
For a very long time, much of Maui's water was used to grow crops, like sugarcane. Now that large-scale farming has mostly stopped, state regulators are taking a hard look at reallocating water from streams, surface water, to other beneficial uses.
So we evaluate freshwater habitat, recreational and aesthetic values, traditional and customary practices, water quality, and a variety of in-stream uses that are defined by the state water code.
It doesn't hurt to repeat what we've heard over and over. Philosophy and a way of thinking formed more than a century ago.
It was stated about 100 years ago that water was our #1 resource that our forests provided. It wasn't timber, it wasn't land, it was the water. And it's evident that without water, life wouldn't survive here in the islands. So protecting our watersheds, protecting our resources, but also utilizing them to the best extent possible while striking a balance, maintaining in-stream values is going to be important moving forward as the climate is changing, as rainfall patterns change, as drought becomes a bigger issue. Our water supply and the consistency and reliability is going to be an important component to our community.
The importance of water in forests was firmly established after vast tracts of lowland trees began disappearing in the early 1900s. They were victims of tree harvesting and cattle grazing. Streams ran dry. Farmers noticed the decline. So did the foresters of the time, whose early work aimed to bring watershed forests back. They searched the world for plants and trees to mimic the original forest, with the thinking the native trees would not come back, and unfortunately leading to the introductions of alien species. On the bright side, the planting of 12.5 million of these mostly non-native trees in the early 1940s heralded the concept of forest protection and restoration. The rain following the forest, which is as valid today as ever. From the sky to the forest, to the ground, to the underground, and back up again.
We produce about 36 million gallons a day. Most of that is groundwater. Here where we are in Iao in central Maui, about 90% of that water is from groundwater and some is from surface water, as like Wailuku River behind us. Other areas like Lahaina, the west side, and upcountry, we rely heavily on surface water. Then on Molokai, it's 100% reliant on groundwater.
Ava Blumenstein is with the county department that gets water from the ground or surface to the majority of Maui's homes, schools, and businesses.
We literally walk on our water supply. So anything that you dump or that spills on the ground can leach through the soil and into the aquifer and contaminate it.
And knowing just how important its forests are for life, the county government on Maui has invested millions of dollars to protect water supplies. That includes fencing to keep hungry critters out of sensitive forest watershed areas. It includes pipes and tanks to move water and store it. They even support research on invasive plants and how to control them and knock them down.
And it has replaced the native forest. We know that we're getting less recharge because that's the real water hog. That particular tree uses more water than native species, and it's not as good as intact native habit or a ecosystem really to capture all that rainfall.
Koa and ohia, and then we have like the smaller trees like a'ali'i.
With all the forest protection and replanting projects happening all across the state, there's a real sense of optimism. And shortly, you'll meet some of the people who have their boots on the ground, working and volunteering to be sure that optimism is true and lasting.
There is plentiful and there's pristine water resources here. In terms of groundwater, we have 426 million gallons a day. We certainly have the supply there. It's just a way of managing and using it responsibly.